hoping for a crown.
And we're going to get well underway in this game number 1 of the grand finals of RSC 10. And just a reminder, this is the final potential series that you will get to feast your eyes upon in this RSC 10 season. You'll have to wait one heck of a time before you see gameplay like this again, so cherish it whilst you can.
Oh, it will be gleaning and the heart will be palpitated for every player on this pitch. Even the management sometimes behind them too is more invested or more silly, can't control the nerves. But that there was nervous by Creamy, covered up though, 1-0.
And it's a quick start for the side of Paradise with a beautifully well-worked demo play and a passing play at that upfield has worked that space for Paradise, and Dustsucker for them wasn't too much they could do. A good start from Paradise.
Certainly so, and factly a double cheat up into the follow kickoff there. Creamy moves that in, that's an outright blunder. Oh.
I went for a sip of water and almost spit it straight out. What is that, Tempo? Come on, mate. You're better than that, but you know what? I told you Dustsucker came in from the last series in a manner of inconsistency, and I'm hoping that's not going to be something that plagues them this time around.
Hopefully not. Sandberg in the back line, so the wreck, so waiting, pushing down the line. The follow through will not be happy there. Stansku is there in a round here, and do you know what? I don't think a lot of credit is given to some of these smaller regionals where they stick into their fellow countrymen, because both of these two sides had really good in terms of their own regional league players coming up here. Especially how long, just shows you how fruitful it can be. But Rexo, that's experience, ton off it there. They move it down from the middle. This is Falbus alright. Might be 2-0 to the good here, but this, hold on for a second or two.
Oh, and Dansku is almost able to work a shot into the bottom right-hand side of the net as Edgeby is trying to aim for some control with a 50-50, as once again Dustsucker throwing everything they have at the play. And if you didn't catch that previous series, that really was the pace setter. It was Dustsucker just completely bulldozing their way through to the offense of their opponents with complete disregard to what's left at the back.
Nothing to add on to that one. Psycho, who's been in Worlds as a contender, vast amount of experience, been around and touched the RLCS, probably as the coach as well too, given his expert opinion. But you do not need words. That sound, that noise, the clean of the hit too. This is the Premier Tier after all. 3-0, lovely stuff.
Absolutely, and no margin for error. An error has been found maybe once or twice. Paradise certainly pushing their agenda as Edgeby is going to work another ball downfield to Rexo, who's perfectly positioned for a shot just over the margin as Edgeby hoofing a ball long. It's going to clamber back to his own touch. Creamy in the air with a 50-50, and I've been trying to consider what this game has been like aside from the goals that have gone in terms of the pace, in terms of how this game has been poised for us, Danny, and it seems relatively even.
It certainly does, and bit surprised by how the 3 goals somewhat has went in, but they've been taking the chances very clinical. You can't do anything about that, especially when they are scoring like that.
Absolutely so, and Tempo with an important touch forwards out of his own goal line, but they need to create something. There's 2 minutes left on the clock, and Zamberg positioning downfield is going to give them exactly that opportunity as a redirect just high of the margin. Tempo striking once again on an almost loose right-hand side of that net as Dansku. Good 50-50 infield to Zamberg, and Tempo's going to be following up quickly, hunting for those bumps, those disruptions, but Rexo has it all covered.
Straight over to a factly. Zamberg's done well enough here, forced into it, and that might be goal number 4 approaching here, especially with how it was laid up as Rexo. Scrappy clearance and Zamberg, you just see the double commit with the pre-jump too. Fabulous stuff! And Creamy off the line. That would have sparked something if it went on in.
Absolutely so, and 1 minute 30, not time you want to be messing about with, and just one goal can cause that spiral of despair for your team who's conceded. Unfortunately for them, the save was made, and Edgeby, I feel he's going to have an open net here. Dansku just about home in time.
Could have been so much more there. Temper right on down. Aussies And that one is creamy straight down. I think Danska will be happy the fact that where he gets it away from, not able to do much with it, is Rexo straight down, second touch. I think at this point here we know which way game number one's going to follow through, and that will be the side from the uppers.
And it's so easy at the moment for this side of Paradise, also known as Must-Do Fluck if you know your bubble scene stuff nicely. And right now, it's a routine performance from them which looks so comfortable.
Yes, the bubble scene stuff.
Unlike some certain... let's leave it there.
Some people might just leave you on mute because they can't stand the truth when it's being talked about. Speaking about truth, here's Rexo with another chance on net.
Yeah, Rexo trying to deliver his proofs almost as if he was, well, almost like a religious cult member, just trying to force the agenda himself. And Rexo once again shooting as the top hand left of the net. And Zamberg and Tempo working in unison to find a pinch downfield as a loose touch comes through, and maybe a consolation goal to come. Not quite, Danny.
No.
Nah, not quite.
No, I've been waiting for a while. And
Oh.
Joe, what?
Oh.
Joe, who could have scored that?
Was it Rapids by any chance?
Potentially. I was thinking Archeon, Senji. Sauce
Maybe
could have
Arc.
even scored that one.
Potentially so. Maybe you. I'm not sure about that.
No, definitely not me. I'm a nobody. Who am I? Who cares about this Irish one who sometimes goes loud and very much negative, apparently? So, Psycho, you could have definitely scored that. You obviously have been at this level for a very long time yourself as well, too, and have been criticised by me quite a lot over the years. So I'm going to ask you the question. What would you do in this situation?
Well, that depends which team I'd be on, Danny.
Oh, I'll let you pick. Which one do you fancy? The side that got beat 4-0?
Alright. You know what? For Paradise, I think they just need to keep having a stroll in the park, because at the moment it's working for them. Dustsucker, however, they have a more difficult time coming up to approach a solution, it must be said, because it seems that Paradise are absolutely annihilating them in every single domain of the play, and especially that midfield control, that midfield presence to create opportunities. It's all been found by Paradise, and it's because of their spacing, I feel. They are always in the right place to look for each other and support each other on the field. Dustsucker, for me, it's just too blasé. They're throwing themselves at opportunities, thinking something is going to spawn from nothing.
There you have it. Speaking about having it as well too, Dustsuckers from their own back lines here will be already tempered, already out of the possession here, and Sandberg sweeps on in, gentle touch across here, wasn't thumped, and able to maybe make something off this.
Yeah, and possession at the moment. It's going to be transitioned back to the way of Dustsucker as an infield ball comes through to Zamberg. Tempo with a shooting opportunity, touched away by Creamy.
Bit shocked there. Left the ball, but obviously the comms come through, and Temper with one little shot across the field here and back down here. Dustsuckers is not pushing it, they're just sitting there waiting. What's he going to do with the ball? They wonder curiously in that situation here in the back lines, and one of Dustsuckers there looking for a bump, and the ball wasn't even going near it.
Oh, and it's a loose touch on the back end of Dustsucker. It's going to allow so much time and space for Paradise to play with. It really is just kids at a play park at the moment. Look at the connections between this side. The confidence is brimming from every crevice as a ball comes across the other side of the net. HB to the midfield. Beautiful finish.
Slots it to the left side. Credit to the pass as well too, how the ball got to it. But hold on a second here, we might want to see a kick-off goal, but Spook's been talking about this side, especially in this blue, how well they've been training, how well and effective they can put that kick-off strategy, deliver themselves chances as well too, so I'll be surprised if there's a quick counter of the kick-off against them tonight here, as that ball's been wormed to the left-hand side corner, repelled back once, it'll probably be repelled the second time too.
And there's going to be an easy transition play for Paradise to apply some pressure to, but Rexo a little clumsy at the back line. It's going to give way for some possession from the opposing end. Zamberg once again playing high. He needs to do something more than just beat one player, as Edgeby is going to hoof the ball long straight back to the hands of Dansku.
Nice catch. Down it goes. And is it being left behind? Going for the bomb. Went and shot right at the keeper. Poor delivery on that one as Sandberg scrambles to get it away here. Downfield on the opposite end. Everybody fancying a goal at this one. And the keeper punches it wide.
And has certainly done enough to get some possession back in the opposing end as Tempo throwing a ball over to the opposite end of the court. Dansku with a lot of space to opt for some control, but the touch was certainly too heavy and he couldn't follow up on his own mishap there as Edgeby off to a teammate blocked away by Dansku. And it's nice to see Dustsucker at the moment really trapping off this midfield space that Paradise have maintained for so long.
For a period of time, it's nice to see. So what you do with the possession and the time on the ball, that is crucial, even often arguably too, when how much time you're spending to close it off, and that is disaster. Shocking to see that one occur the way it is as Sandberg just tips it down. What I'm not a fan here, Seiko, is how Lassay, as you described it earlier, they need to find each other a bit more convincing than that.
Absolutely, and this Paradise side at the moment, it looks as if there's no cracks whatsoever in Rexo. Well, I was crossing my fingers he'd be able to get up for that one. I knew he was certainly capable and did exactly what he needed to do as Tempo throwing a ball over to a teammate who's just going to let him continue forwards as Rexo may be able to beat a player if he's got a flip left. He doesn't quite as creamy. Takes to the skies. What can he create? Absolutely nothing. Batted away by Sandberg.
Dustsucker really needs a goal. This game deserves a goal. Spicy in the shade of red here. They keep on what has been a fabulous tournament, a competition that has lived up to the expectation. It's caused a few dramas, it's caused a few bits of sparkling bits of entertainment here, and that ball across field here. Is anybody home? Not a chance.
And not a weep in from the defence either as Edgeby is just going to get a single touch which just bonks it home, and Dansku is caught all out of shape sniffing out that corner of the field thinking that Edgeby would perhaps play a little more patiently, and unfortunately was punished for his thought process as Dustsucker. The misery is just evolving even more, and Danny, I heard you having a little chomp, and I know all the viewers back home are going to be tucking into their popcorn with the performance Paradise is giving us, but Dustsucker need more to give.
Certainly so. And the T4 is certainly not training, because if this was prospect, challenger, rival, leader, master, I'd be ripping into them with their shoddy bit of defence there. I think even the expectations of everybody would be somewhat hoping for it here, but this team got here. They deserve maybe a chance here with a bit of time, but that is the problem. They are running out of time. And you know what? There's also a bit of great delight for one particular person in the entirety of RSC.
Who would that be?
And that would be Sauce. Because you don't get to hear what we get to hear in the production in our ear. Because he says, stop swearing, stop saying those nasty words onto it. And he screams down in one of my ears onto it. And that is, stop saying the words bracket reset. Well, Sauce, you'll be quite pleased to hear, if this keeps on going, there will be no bracket reset.
Well, let's hope otherwise for our sake, because we're so selfish in that aspect, Danny. We just want this show to go on. How could we dream of such a thing? But Dustsucker, it looks dire for them. And I know I gave them some brief advice in terms of trying to find each other more on the pitch, and instead of just throwing each other in the same avenues down the field, really open up that spacing and try and command more of that midfield. They've done none of that so far. How do they work that out in, well, 2 games, potentially?
You asking me, or do you want chat to answer that?
You can have a go. I'm sure chat will be just as confused.
Well, that's good, because I don't really have an answer. I can sit here and give you a perfectly reasonable solution. Problem is, they cannot listen to it, not deliver on it, or they could play absolutely well and still get beaten. And so far, they've been cleaned off in 2 games without breaking a sweat here, this Paradise roster.
And it looks a little clumsy. That was the one opportunity Dustsucker has had in, well, it's got to be like 6 minutes, and they still couldn't find the back of the net there. It was just heroics on the back line from Paradise early on. And Dansku right now is going to try and change the flow, the pace of the game by putting one to a central teammate, rather. It's not gone well for them.
Not yet. But mind you, best of 7. They have moved up. In terms of the standard of the amount of games that need to be played here, has that been blocked? But the problem is where it spills second time around should be likely for a clearance, and Sandberg's up. Problem, it's into the corner. Who follows it round? And do you know what? I'm slightly envious, Psycho.
Envious of what, Danny?
Just Sandberg. He makes the game look too simple sometimes.
And Dansku has just about gotten away with a last-minute save there. It's not going to be enough to stop, the current onslaught. As Rexo taking to the skies needs a 50 to try and find a teammate, but it's been well worked and well positioned by the Dustsucker defense to see that one through in numbers. Zamberg with a touch central and a whiff from the defense. A bump is going to be lurked for. Creamy just about getting it off to the side.
There's Creamy, straight down, no touch. Sandberg's able to scoop that one away. Second touch, brilliant. And there's Skansku. That will be goal number 1. Whether it's sloppy, sloopy, or just outright oopy, it's good enough.
It's plenty good enough for them. And hopefully, they've regenerated some steam that they need to keep going in this series. And Dansku is the man to get the job done. There's Paradise. I highly doubt there's going to be any doubt in their minds creeping through up until this point.
Really? No doubt at all.
I mean, now they've made it hard for themselves, so potentially so.
Be shocked. The favourites coming in this, winning 2-0 quite comfortably in 4-0, 2-0 fashion. Shuddering at the fear that a side might come back. No, I don't think so. It's 2-1.
It is as quickly as that kickoff goal, and it was Tempo opting for that aggressive strategy. I'm not sure if he was aiming for the ball or the bump. He got neither. He just saw himself through into the distance, into the scenery in Urban Central, and it was an easy tap in at the end of the day.
Very much so. Comfortable at that as well too. And again, it's the kickoff that has been almost evil and diabolical in terms of how effective that it has been paying off here. As that ball back into middle, you fancy a second go here for goal number 3. The problem is Creamy and the rest of the team knows what they're doing. They know what their opposition's doing probably before they do here in Dustsucker. They need to get a move on.
Absolutely, and Tempo's going to try and provide exactly that with an open net, just wide of the margin, but a tight angle, it has to be said, as Edgeby straight over to a looming attacker as Dansku! That needed to be converted. What went wrong?
He didn't score.
Other than that,
he didn't put it in the rectangle. How many different ways do you want me to say it?
You can try and beat around the bush, but he literally just missed the open net. He was presented, and there's not
I'm
going to
certainly
be
not beating the bush here. I'm being as direct as you can here.
Well, I have to say, aiming for the rectangle was certainly being around the bush for you. Usually you're a bit more direct, and Edgeby straight off to the side is not going to be able to establish much control for this Paradise side, but it's all comfortable for now.
Oh, it's amazing. Here, Psycho's holding me to a higher standard than the players. I'm slightly shocked by that, as the goal that was wide open to a certain degree here. It should have been tapped in a fully move into it, but this one, not open. 2 keepers there dealt away, and tut. This is meant to be the top end, the Premiership, the bubble end of the type of players here that was taken away. Their prime chance running away, counter breathing, and Rexo knows that. So does the rest of the teams. Fabulously pushed away.
Fantastic save at the back there on the end of Dustsucker as Paradise going to work their way forward in numbers. Look at Creamy's already downfield, prepared for that clearance to come through, and it always seems to be Dustsucker struggling in that regard, and Paradise always seem to have answers in terms of their positioning on the field, as Tempo is going to have to do everything alone and is able to beat one player and try and force a 50 on the second.
No real strong connection from either of the two sides there. Even the blocks came out a little bit questionable. That's a good throw up too. Down the line it goes, and Creamy, he'll leave that one away. Wise this time around as the clearance from both sides. Not necessarily outstanding, but it's doing the job nonetheless here to the back wall. It's been tipped high up.
And Tempo's shooting has been on fire all series long, and he almost caused the defense to be in all sorts of trouble, but once again, it was all good for the time being. As Rexo off to the side, this is going to be their final attack of the game. Surely nothing can come from this as the seconds tick on down. I'm just going to hold my breath as Rexo, can he find an infield pass? It looks like a 1v3. Surely a shot's going to come through. Just about blocked away.
Echo.
Yes.
What a game.
They have. Are you optimistic?
No.
It's the wrong answer. It's simply the wrong answer. We have a reason to be optimistic, and Dustsucker have given it to us. What more can you ask for?
A second game win for them before I'm somewhat optimistic.
All right.
Maybe.
Well, that's on the cards, hopefully.
Well, potentially so. Well, it is. It has to be, surely. No way this runs away as a 4-1 victory here, because we've shown the fight, we've shown determination here, but what's missing here is the ability to score a open net.
Potentially so. And Dustsucker, if I reflect upon the 2 goals they were able to bury in the early stages of the previous game, they weren't convincing. And I'm not sure Dustsucker even really held Paradise in too many uncomfortable situations, bar one, which wasn't actually converted. So for Dustsucker, I feel they just need a bit more conviction.
Well, hopefully we might see elements of that, but will we return to the status quo, or will we finally see things shaken up here and slightly, a little bit worried already?
Absolutely, and the ball's going to ricochet off the backboard, but the ball is thrown away into a safe space, but not for too long. There's 2 orange players sat at the front post, just having a grand old picnic. Certainly not where they needed to be.
What picnics do you go to?
Typically not one on the front post.
Okay. I'm just wondering. I have no friends and don't get invited, so thought to ask.
Right, I'll take you on a date by the front post sometime, Danny, and we can have the exact same miserable experience that unfortunately Dustsucker just found themselves in.
Ah, that is a miserable experience, and it's also not a surprise why I'm alone with no friends, as Sandberg will be deep alone with his own thoughts there, because that shot wasn't good enough. High across the board!
Oh.
What a save off the line by Creamy there!
Such an important block to keep the tempo rolling for this must-do Fluck / Paradise roster. Zamberg delicately touches high, opts for the flip reset, and he's got some support in numbers who have thrown themselves out the window. Edgeby in a 1v2. Rexo is going to help out with a bump of his own. Somehow, Dustsucker have gotten away with it.
And they're on the development path here. Past one, not past the second, of course, and Rexo, well, that's dreadful by his standards, but will pay off dividends because the follow-up by the team support and working well. But Dustsucker, their rotation's not on point to follow up with a block here at any point, and we're already deep in the red half, deep into the red third. They've slowly now pushed up, but have they pushed enough players too?
And Tempo is going to strike on that opening position, and they've certainly got players in numbers as Creamy. He needed to find some safety in the corner, but he ricocheted it off the wall instead of rolling it up, and a free shot for Tempo.
You love shots like that. Just hits it sweetly, and the keeper just dangling there. Oh, more of that, please.
More of that, please, indeed, as Zamberg is going to hit high straight back to the opposition, and Tempo strikes high. It's going to be comfortable for Edgeby to deal with, as he's got plenty of space, plenty of boost in the corner. It's going to drag out one of the opposing players as Zamberg has a lot of space of his own now. Can he find a player in the midfield? Blocked away by the defence.
Speaking about that bit of defence there, that was tipped to the side, and a bit worrisome here. We're approaching half-time. It took a while for Dustsucker to find the equaliser. Eventually came. But mind you, this ball's been trapped quite nicely on the right red side here. It's been pushed now to the opposite, so a change of the grain of pressure. Oh my word! Downscoot has slipped in through the back door. Psycho, forget about the front post. Lay the carpet down.
Bow down to Dansku, the man who's made a difference in this game and the previous. He had worked himself into that little pocket of space opened up by Paradise and found the goal they needed. Tempo, what are you doing, Zamberg? It's alright, it's gone in. It's all good.
Get some glasses, Tempo. That was
He
dreadful.
just fancied another picnic at the front post, so that's why he was aiming over there.
He really loves that left-hand post.
He certainly does. And I'm trying not to burst out laughing, but we've just gone from what was a 1-1 affair with about, what, 2 minutes 50 left on the clock. Something around there. Dustsucker have slotted in 2 in mere seconds. What is going on?
I don't know. All that I'm just thinking right now is Tempo, who has got a sharp object and wrote, "I loved left-hand post." Just carved it in because that's just how much time he spent there. It's almost somewhat strangely romantic as he's just been bumped away here. Downsky this time around getting involved, and I think Paradise is a little bit fed up here. They've become a bit physical with the love and the support that the opposition seems to be getting. It's now a little bit more brutal on the pitch here.
Absolutely, and Paradise are finally in a situation where they really do have to dig deep and work for a result. In that previous affair, Dustsucker seemed to get away with it, and almost in this game it has as well. But at least Dustsucker have found a tempo that they are comfortable with, and they seem to be a driving force in this game.
Well, they do have a tempo. There he is, blocking the ball right now. Fabulous player.
Yeah, he's everywhere, isn't he, that tempo bloke, as Dansku is going to get a scrape on the underneath of the ball to see it wide. And Tempo, he's there again, he really is everywhere. He's a magic man as Zamberg touching a ball central high for Dansku. Is this going to be the nail in the coffin? Certainly, it will be exactly that.
Just love the technique on this. Shavings, effectively. Oh, they're making the game look simple. I dislike them for that.
Well, it's a simple game when your shots don't hit the left-hand post. And for Paradise, they've been on the receiving end of some misery in this particular game, but we've seen them really establish control more so than all other teams in this competition. Why am I talking about Paradise? Because at the moment, Tempo does not give two Scooby-Doobies. That's a wonderful finish.
Well, there's a mystery to be solved, but these pesky kids are somewhat running around here.
I hate you for that, Danny.
I know, everybody hates me.
Well, you've added another to the tally tonight, unfortunately, as there will be no forgiveness from me. Unfortunately, for Paradise, Dustsucker very much unforgiving at the moment as well, because they were taking in an almost flukily established gap to their lead, but they've really gone and truly pushed it forwards to the result we're seeing right now.
Certainly so. But I'm shocked that these words are coming out of my mouth right now. It's 2-2. If you've been watching this grand final, you thought this had 4-0 written all over here. The players are just taking a bit of time, so good traditional rule 1, so while they're doing that, how's the weather, Psycho?
Well, if I look out the window at the moment, it seems black. That's not really a type of weather, is it? So if I actually look at the bottom right of my PC, it says 12 degrees, mostly cloudy. So there you go.
Well, while we continue the rest of the forecast here, it is pretty cloudy here, especially, of course, for Parasite themselves here. They have not had clouds at all in this tournament here. Paradise themselves here would need quite literally to brighten themselves up here, because Psycho, they were running the table. They were running everything quite perfectly. Dustsuckers, I don't know where they've been, but it's nice to see them showing up.
Absolutely so, and this does sort of remind me of that performance that came through from Dustsucker in the lower finals as well against Nami Brigade. It seems that Nami Brigade were the team with more control, but they were constantly forced on their own backline, and Dustsucker were the team that had to establish control just off their own fruition, forcing themselves into the play, being so aggressive downfield and just strangling the opposition. I'm wondering if they can recreate such a state of affairs as we saw in the lower finals.
Certainly so. It's worth back, of course, watching through the VOD as well too. If you haven't been enjoying RSC as well, get involved into the community and feel free to support it as well too, as much as you possibly can. Here is, well, this is one way to play Rocket League, and not necessarily ideal.
Not at the moment, but we've seen some brilliance from both of these teams now, it has to be said. And in this very last game, it must be said, a foothold needs to be established, and well, I know this is a best of 7, and there could still be some distance left for both of these teams, as Creamy is going to try and find an opener in this game number 5. Dansku working downfield to Zamberg, but an important whiff on the end of Dustsucker is going to see that one away. Tempo, can he work some more magic? His shooting accuracy has been absolutely on point, and it's not stopping now.
Zamberg, what a catch, past 1, but he is fortunately removed off to the pitch, tipped aside, and Creamy will be quicker to it. And both of these two sides here is just playing to the last possible second here in terms of the reactive ball that's been sent around here, tipped back down to the side. Zamberg likely the one to reach to this one. Of course he's there. He's always there.
Absolutely so, providing that early aggression just to force the opposition's hand, as well, Paradise, they've been the more controlling of the two rosters, generally speaking, and Dustsucker just trying to negate that everywhere they can, and it does seem to be Zamberg who's throwing those early challenges and those early bits of pressure, and he's danced around 2 there.
It's impressive. I think for the first time we have a bit of parity into this game here. Both of them quite literally even here, so that shot will be eventually going wide. I think it would be unfair to even call it a shot, but Psycho, I think this is fair to say, game back certainly on for both sides here.
Absolutely, it looks a beauty to watch at the moment, just in terms of the technicalities of the game. There is no mistakes coming through from either of these two teams, and they are trying to work with each other in a meaningful capacity, and that's something Dustsucker earlier in this series, I thought particularly, was struggling with, well and truly finding those connections now.
No connection found on that potential route. The avenue certainly was closed there. It'll be a skelter of a ball there, straight down, shot wide by Creamy. It's a slight first indication here where this side in blue really has slightly suffered the little bit of blow to their confidence, because that would have been on target, especially from game 1 and 2 early in this grand final. Tipped away now, of course, down to the middle of the pitch.
Creamy's going to send a ball long to a teammate, but it's blocked away up early by Zamberg, as Rexo now working his way to the opposite corner of the field, and there's 2 orange players in an uncomfortable situation, but Zamberg certainly bailing out that situation with his mechanical prowess, as Rexo once again up early to provide that pressure to stop that transition coming through from the orange team.
Tempo, straight down. You're right, the transition may not be fully good here. And that's us tipped right in front, and Dansku could not convert that time around, so we go back through this small merry-go of a ride here to find the first real true exit, of course, here back and sent. It's almost be a bit unfair here, but it's almost like both sides have forgotten where the net is right now.
Yeah, it's all about that midfield pressure at the moment, that midfield domination. Neither of these two teams are finding any foothold in the offensive zones where it counts, where the goals fly in. And at the moment, a very passive approach taken in this game number 5, as well and truly, not too many cracks exploited as Edgeby off to the side of the field. Needs to try and work for a 50-50 to get his team some control, and hopefully Edgeby can be on the receiving end of this hoof from his teammate.
Sandberg jumped a bit early, but was to block the side cross pathway there. If they wanted to take a zoom shot, it might have blocked as well too, but helped his team cover a potential angle, and he does it once more, but it's a clean opportunity for a double. Oh! It's on target at least, but it's a whisker away there. It would have been a cruel one, as Dustsuckers arguably on top in this game, but we're talking a minute of a percentage of a difference here.
And that certainly could be one heck of a reality check for the end of Dustsucker, as Edgeby was able to almost spell a mesmerising opportunity out of thin air, as Dansku is going to try and replicate exactly that, but it's not going to be any sorts of threat for the defence as Creamy. All he needs to do is hold on, and he's done exactly that.
Certainly so. Looks like we're heading into OT, but again, it's been one of those nights where you just wonder how and why is that ball going to slip on through, and what the teams are trying to get there, and by what methods are they going to achieve their goals here? As this already starts with an explosive one here, and Dustsucker has to play defensive too. That's no surprise. That has been almost a pattern of symmetry in all 4 games up until this point.
And Dansku with an uncomfortable touch. He's going to concede possession, but only briefly, as Tempo works his way forwards individually. And Zandberg now with a high, loose touch, a throw of possession, it must be said. You can't be doing that when the Wolves come hunting. And Edgeby once again with a mesmerising play, just off that sidewall so delicately, catches the reset. Job done.
There we have it. Job done in game 5 here in the the bracket reset. We haven't got there just yet. It's the grand final. We could, however, be avoiding it entirely. The side there that was just seeing the goal slip on through there just shows you what and how it could be. That was... I'm going to apologise, Psycho, but that was diabolical. That should have been saved.
It should have been, and you know what? It feels wrong even criticising the goal that we just witnessed, but unfortunately, on the end of Dustsucker, there was simply no one on their back lines, and Zandberg with the loose touch high. It was such a wasteful piece of possession, straight to the hands of the Wolves that came hunting, and Edgeby was that player to shine when those cracks showed themselves, and you know what? Fair play to him.
Certainly so, and the now 5 of the 6 grand finals that Seiko and I have cast, if memory serves me right, would pretty much have been on farm state for the majority of this match, where it has ended for one of these 2 teams. It was in one of those instances the bracket reset. Dustsucker, mind you, will need to win here, win on championship field, and cause everybody delight bar our producer, because he's going to have to sit here for an additional hour, and unfortunately means he has to listen to me too. So Psycho, I think we've made his day miserable tonight.
Absolutely so, and I'm very thankful for that. Source, if there's any time to have a really bad day, now is that time. We want 14 games and we want 22-minute overtimes, because quite frankly I'm at that stage now where the heart is beginning to pump a little bit. I just combined 2 words so beautifully there. I know I'm not much of a poet myself, but I'm quite proud of myself for that one.
That's nice of you. It's been a bit of a stumble for me, arguably, tonight, as Sandberg will be trying to get his team not stumbling, but standing in this game 6 here. It's worked well. Defence here, mind you, not going right through. So, what is going on here? There is a loose screw in the factory of the furniture of both of these 2 teams right now.
Certainly so, and it's Dustsucker who's looking to loosen that screw perhaps and just let all the chaos unfold, as Tempo and Dansku are going to collect in midair. There's 2 defenders at the back of Paradise. Even they don't know what just happened.
Would have been painful if one of the players was on the rotation. It was a quick tap in for 2-0.
Would have been a beautiful one at that as well. As Rexo gets hoofed by his own opposition into a midfield pass. Just about seen away as Tempo is going to work downfield, but a hoof has already come long to Rexo with a high touch. Can he best Zandberg as well? A high touch once again from Zandberg has spelt disaster previously. Not so much on that occasion.
Strong touch there. Back it goes, and Zandberg lasts back into it. You can see a bit of hesitation slipping in. Just trying to work out what is the biting point to challenge there as Creamy now holds it 3 boosts, but Dansku might have an idea of how low the situation is and at peril if he challenged much sooner, but did not, and that's the key distinguishing factor between the two sides here. Who has got the better read, not just of the play here, but of the player of their opposition? Do they have the boots? Do they have the position? And that's where we find ourselves in this sort of mini of a stalemate here.
I have to agree with you, Danny, and Edgeby's going to try and capitalise on that really loose defence of Dustsucker as Rexo striking just above the crossbar. Tempo on the transition is going to make it difficult for the defence, but they're going to hold on for the time being.
Oh, there's Rexo. Zandberg back around, second time in quick concession. He's been the last player defensive as Paradise is there. Dansku up to the ceiling, will get a touch. Is that a flip reset? Looks like he didn't get it, and Rexo just cleans it up slowly, dragging this game down in terms of the pace there. It knows effectively both sides not necessarily brimming with full boost here, but they don't want to waste it on a play that they cannot guarantee.
Oh, and Edgeby was lurking high up that backboard, trying to recreate a shot we saw earlier from Lucas. Tempo trying to search for that upper corner of the net as an infield pass comes through. Edgeby sat in a good position to block it off, and Rexo cannot get up in time. It's a wonderfully well worked stint of pressure as a result of that touchdown from Tempo. Zandberg lacing it to the backboard, and Dansku picking up the loose pieces.
You didn't think this was possible, did you, when we started this series?
Well, I called a sweep in favour of Paradise because Dustsucker were a team to me that had shown absolutely no means of consistency, especially in that lower finals. And towards the start of this series, it looked dire for them. It looked as if they were counted out, chalked off after those first 2 games, and yet here we are, Danny.
Well, I think it'd be fair to say that you also said it was going to go the distance without also saying what team before that sweep comment came around. So a confusing situation, a confusing statement. And that also summarises this game as well to it. 3-0. I think it's comfortable to add at this point in time. We will be going to championship field here in this best of 7, going 7 games. That may be a surprise for some people. It's just whether the naughty word itself, or 2 in fact, the bracket reset, can Dustsuckers get to that stage? Oh dear, it might even look likely.
It's done. It is absolutely done as far as I'm concerned. There is absolutely no possible means of Paradise finding their way back into this game, and that has to be so frustrating for them, because they know they are going to have another potential hour of their lives wasted when they could have seen it through the door a bit quicker.
Wasted? I've enjoyed the hour what we've got so far.
I certainly have as well, but for Paradise, they're not going to be too happy about these first 7 games, no matter how you cut it, Danny.
Fair enough. Usually I'm meant to be the negative one, but it will certainly be the unhappier of the 2 sides. I will grant you that, but I think both of these 2 sides will also know what needs to be done. And just to put this in the context as well too here, Seiko, 4-0, 2-0, 2-1, 6-1, 1-0, and now 5-0. That's been the scoreline so far of every game we've played here. It's been barely close for a few of them.
Yeah, and you're right in saying that, and I feel that when Paradise lose that foothold, lose that control, potentially they lose either their focus or their confidence. Something goes heavily wrong, because when they are down, they find it so difficult to come back, and I really don't want to say this, but I've watched them in other European competitions as well emulate a similar sort of performance where if they are in control, it's demanding. When they're not, they throw it all completely out of the window.
Out of the window?
Yeah.
That's a shame.
It is. And I'll tell you something else that is a shame. And that's going to be the lowering happiness levels of our broadcaster source.
Look, let's not mention it because we know what it can be like. But you know what? I'm going to mention it anyway. Bracket reset. Some of us want it, some of us don't. Dusksucker certainly are the one who's looking at especially that little bit more here. But I'm going to ask you this question. Does it deserve the bracket reset? Do we need to have the bracket reset here? Because I'm looking at this game here and so we're going, it's been either lopsided or the close side of the games here. Realistically, Dusksucker has not won a close game bar one of them.
Yep, but for me, the momentum is completely riding in their favour. If there is a time for Dusksucker to deliver one heck of a performance, now is probably the time, and I'm sure they're going to be hyping each other up, these boys. They've been playing with each other for so long in various competitions, maybe not as a solid team, but this Dusksucker entity and this community of players that works amongst this team has been around for so long. They know what's, you know, what is left to give, and I reckon they're certainly capable of doing that.
And there we have it. Hopefully you at home will have your say as well. The grand final here of the Premiership tier on RSC here could be over within 5 simple minutes with one individual bit of brilliance here as Sandberg up to the backlines. It's the first time Dusksucker has had a real presence of the kickoff from the very beginning. This is maybe a telling of what's to come.
Potentially so, and Rexo is going to slow down the play. He knows how aggressive this Dusksucker side can be, so he's trying to bait out those loose defenders so that that space can be opened up for the likes of Edgeby with those highlight performances we saw earlier.
Creamy, straight down to nothing there. There's Edgeby, one touch here. Rexo just stood there and said, please don't do that, please don't do that, I'm not ready! Who wasn't ready for that shot there? Slimmed away, bracing as that ball there needs to be whipped to the side. Sandberg, tempo, one of you hit it!
And you just have to hoof it wide and follow up on your own touch, because at the moment this Paradise back line is certainly something to be exploited with those large hoofs as Creamy's going to get up nice and quickly. What a save from Tempo. That can surely keep them within contention of moving towards that bracket reset.
There around, needs to tip it down here. Creamy back up and launches at good distance here and is getting a free look into the door there, but Sandberg closes it shut as the opportunity presents itself. Rexo dancing around the attacker too. Both of these sides paralleling between both of in and out. Who wants it more? Nobody wants that one. They went for a quick demo.
Oh, I'm not sure it was went for. It just happened. It spawned out of thin air. Both of these teams certainly, as you said earlier, Danny, reading the play down to a T, and there's 3 orange players at the back, potentially not too much boost to their name, as I'm seeing Zambo with absolutely nothing in the tank, exploited by Rexo, up high, seen away by Dansku.
Here's Sandberg, catches it, brings it across, unfortunately brings it to his opposition counterpart, so he'll have a second go, and that's a poor tip, but it will work out due to Tempo's pace. Up it goes. Look at the tip. Gently, softly got the ball across here and tries to pass it to a teammate there that was not ready. Sandberg doing as much as he can to make it work though. It's Creamy, waits patiently, bumped away. Crucial bump at that too.
And Tempo almost found himself a pocket of space to work a shot in the left-hand corner of the net, but the defence was just about there and Tempo had nothing left to give. As Zamberg is going to slow down the play for a change and just let those opponents come towards him. There's another pocket of space from Edgeby. What is he doing on the back line? He's just about, dare I say it, gotten away with it again.
How often will they get away with it? There's another chance. Opens up. Creamy pushes it wide here. Zamberg just to put it back in centre. And it is in the centre of the sort of semicircle. And Dansky once more throws himself. Almost trying to will it in at this point here. We've had 3 odd minutes of clear gameplay. 3 plus chances. Not necessarily clear. But no goal of either two on that column yet.
And it's an awkward touch from Tempo, but Creamy is able to get up and keep the possession rolling as Edgeby really does get an uncharacteristic touch all the way to the other side of the field, and Creamy at the back lines is going to sit and wait patiently. What does Tempo have on offer? Nothing on that occasion, as Creamy is up so quickly to interfere as soon as he saw that flip reset coming.
Rexo straight there, and Zamberg forced into it. Tempo over to Zamberg. Nice little 1-2, but Dansky should be up here. The rotations there. Zamberg the cover. That's a good bit of positional rotation coming in for the DS side in the red, who's been now for the first time struggling to get out of their bits here. The side from the uppers breathing comfortably. You can hear the anguish. You know that Psycho knows the pressure, knows the problem, and that is the problem. Unfold. The tar finally fell. The cannon rips one through.
And it wasn't an easy finish. He's got the job done. There was half the net to aim for, and for Creamy, he found that pocket of space in the net, and the infield passes were just coming through back and forth as they darted from corner to corner, and Creamy almost capitalising on once again another pocket of space as Paradise. They have done so well to break down this defence in the latter stages of this game. They've just forced those commits and unfolded the defence like a piece of carpet. And hopefully for them, they can keep it coming. But there's an open opportunity from absolutely out of nowhere. Tempo is going to be the man to do it.
He will absolutely be. I thought he would have dragged that wide, but I would be foolish. I would be silly. He loves that left-hand side post. He probably sleeps at it at night. He has an intimate relationship with it and won't let it go. He won't let this final go. And one of the oldest players in the scene, showing exactly why you do not give up. Zamberg, you beauty.
Oh, thank you very much, Zamberg. And I hate to shed some light on it. Creamy, once again the player to spill the loose ball in the corner and spelt disaster for Paradise. That's not just one game it's happened, it's 2 as Edgeby off of his own backboard down to Rexo, a touch upfield. Creamy needs a touch high to keep it alive, and Edgeby rushing forwards to try and get something on the ball, but it's not going to be enough.
What do you say? What do you say? What do you